All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to our City Council meeting of July the 8th, 2025. It is now 7 o'clock p.m. Madam Clerk, may I please have the roll?
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Torres Walker.
Present.
Councilmember Freitas.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rocha.
Here.
Mayor Bernal.
Here. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, before we have the city attorney report out, I'd like to introduce our acting city clerk tonight, Jamie Morit. Thank you, Jamie. She is the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, so she has had a full day of meetings and was kind enough to come over and help us out here in Antioch, so thank you, Jamie. All right, Mr. City Attorney, could you please report out on closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The council met with staff on a property negotiations item, price and terms. There was no reportable action and direction was given to staff. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, it's time for public comment. Madam Clerk, how many cards do we have?
There are 2 comment cards.
Okay, 2 speaker cards, and will you please read, oh, maybe 3? Okay, I think we're good. If you could please read the speaker rules.
Welcome to a meeting of the Antioch City Council. Your attendance is appreciated. The state Ralph M. Brown Act guarantees the public's right to address the City Council within the framework of speaker rules. Because agendas encompass many business items, speaker rules enable the meeting to be efficiently conducted and concluded at a reasonable hour. The City Council can only take action on items that are listed on the agenda. If you wish to speak about an item not on the agenda, the public comment section of the agenda is for you. Unagendized comments are provided until no later than 7:30 p.m. when the City Council moves on to agenda items. There is another opportunity for public comments at the end of the meeting. If you wish to speak either during public comments or during an agenda item, fill out a speaker request form located at the entrance of the council chambers. Please place the speaker request form in the tray near the city clerk before the council meeting begins. This will enable us to call upon you to speak. The speaker request form is retained as a public record and as such may be shared with others upon request in line with the California Public Records Act. On your speaker request form, please identify if the comment is for announcement of community events, public comment, or specific agenda item. No one may speak more than once on an agenda item or during public comments. Speakers will be notified shortly before they are called to speak. When you are called to speak, please limit your comments to the time allotted, up to 3 minutes at the discretion of the mayor. The consent calendar is a group of items which are determined to be routine. These items are usually considered all at once and approved without further discussion. If you are opposed to action, which is recommended for an item on the consent calendar, please submit a speaker request form before the meeting and place in the speaker card tray near the city clerk. This will enable the item to be removed from the consent calendar and call on you to speak. After having heard from the public, the agenda item will be closed. Deliberations will then be limited to members of the City Council. If the meeting appears to be going late, the City Council may decide to continue some items until a subsequent meeting. The City Council will try to make this determination around 10:45 p.m. It is the goal to stop discussing agenda items by not later than 11 o'clock p.m.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. 3 minutes per speaker.
The first speaker is Josh Renwick.
Good evening, council members. My name is Josh Renwick, and I thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Last month, I spoke about the economic promise of the Amport's vehicle processing facility here in Antioch and how the current cap on ship traffic might be holding that promise back. Since then, I've taken a closer look at the city's own environmental documents, particularly the initial study and mitigated negative declaration prepared for the project. What I found only reinforces my belief that we can and should do more. The report clearly outlines that up to 25 ship calls per year were considered and approved as part of the environmental review. The city studied this volume and concluded it would not create significant unmitigated impacts to traffic, air quality, or noise. In fact, all anticipated environmental concerns were addressed and mitigated under the existing plan, proving that our city was ready and equipped to handle this level of activity. And yet, since July of last year, only 3 ships have called at the port. That's barely more than 1 ship every 4 months, far below what was not only environmentally cleared, but also economically envisioned. We often talk about smart growth and sustainable economic development. Well, this is it. The city has already done the due diligence, the ship traffic was studied, the community impact was evaluated, the approval was granted, and yet an outdated cap set under a previous administration may be standing in the way of a more vibrant local economy. The Antioch facility isn't just a concept anymore, it's a reality. It's built, it's operating, and it's ready to deliver jobs and tax revenue to Antioch. But it can't do that if it's artificially constrained. Let's not be the city that builds a runway but limits the number of planes allowed to land. Let's not invest in infrastructure only to keep it idle. Neighboring ports like Benicia and Richmond are proof that increased ship traffic, when responsibly managed, can coexist with environmental stewardship and community well-being. And importantly, Antioch's own environmental study confirms we are prepared to handle more. I respectfully ask this council to begin a formal review of the existing ship limit policy. Let's bring it in line with the findings of the environmental study and the goals of this city. Thank you for your attention, your service, and your willingness to keep Antioch moving forward.
All right, thank you.
The next speaker is Ralph Hernandez.
Good evening, everyone. Ralph Hernandez. I'm here, one of the main things is to compliment our police officers, our police department, for the tremendous work that they are doing for our community under the circumstances that they are left with by those that are running our city. You cannot have sworn personnel. Right now, I believe it is 90 sworn personnel in a city that is about 120 residents, 120,000. Back in 94, 95, when I was on the council, Elizabeth Rinwald and myself and some of the other council members, we set a goal, a minimum goal of 1.2 sworn officers per 1,000 residents. 29 years later now, you still are not there. And our city, quite frankly, safety-wise, has suffered. If you apply the 1.2 per 1,000, which we set long ago, the city needs 144 sworn officers. You're not going to get the public safety that we deserve by spending your money elsewhere. Is public safety your primary concern, or is it having all of these little touchy-feely things that you budget money for? What do those things really provide to our community and a safety point? Quite frankly, with my experience and knowledge, it doesn't. Your priority has to be public safety. Go back to the budget, which I'm sure you guys can do, which you have the authority to do. Take a look at what you are budgeting for, where you are spending your monies. We're not talking about $10, $20. We're not talking about just $1 million. We're talking about millions of dollars that you guys are budgeting in various areas. Public safety has always been, and I believe continue will be, a priority that the community is told you are for when you're running for office, but then the actions you take up there, you're not carrying it out. I mean, what is it? Do you care about public safety or don't you? Do you care about the officers out there and the heavy load that is imposed on them? No, it's not fair. I encourage you all to look at the budget again and get to the 100.
Thank you, Ralph.
The next speaker is Frank Sterling.
Hello, everybody. Hello, council, mayor, chief back there, everybody. Yeah, I'm here tonight because I am concerned that our department did have an officer-involved shooting recently. And I know you guys were doing new things now and trying to do new stuff. But right now, I'm feeling like nothing new. I know there's rules and laws about video and the releasing of the video. I think the other day you mentioned 15 days to me. I don't know if that will happen. But I'm just hoping that something new, something more transparent, and something different is going to happen in the case of this young person that was recently killed up in there in Mira Vista Hills. I took a quick glance at the social media, the Facebook page before I left tonight. I haven't seen a new post about it, nothing. I watched as much as I could of the meeting last night. I was unable to attend, but I put it on in my headphones and I had it on when I was doing my stuff. I wasn't able to pay full attention, but I didn't hear it mentioned at all until one of the commissioners brought it up that they'd like to hear more about it. So I'm just hoping that things will be different this time. I know we're going to talk a minute. We'll see what happens. I haven't got a chance to meet the family, but I'm hoping I get to soon so I could talk to them and help them get resources and meet other families, and so we could help them out. I'll save my last few minutes or a minute and a half here about the ICE thing. I don't know if you guys saw San Francisco today, but a federal masked ICE agent with no identification except for a thing that said police pulled an assault rifle on a group of protesters and brandished an assault rifle. Protesters clashed with ICE and tried to prevent them from kidnapping another person that showed up for a regularly scheduled hearing. You saw LA, what happened yesterday. I wonder if you guys are having any ideas of what you would do if ICE showed up at the restaurant right here at Guadalajara or showed up at any place in town. What are we gonna do? What is gonna happen if the community jumps in front of an ICE truck, flattens their tires, throws water bottles at them, tries to pull the person away? What are you guys planning if ICE comes here and starts arresting people? Because it's gonna eventually happen. And I know in the end, as we've seen around the country, the police usually come out and block protesters from ICE while they do their duty. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Like, I don't know if you guys have a plan or if you're even thinking about it, but take a look later at the NBC story when the guy pulled the gun on protesters, the scuffle that happened between people, the screams of the people that were there. You know, I don't know if you've been following Concord, where they're abducting people almost every week that are showing up for regular hearings. They're not the criminals, they're people that are going for legal court hearings. So what are you all planning for that? You can think about that. All right, thank you. I'll save you 10 seconds.
All right, thank you.
The next speaker is Crystal Law.
Hello, y'all. I hope that everybody had a good week. I have two concerns, well, actually three, but the first two. I hadn't been able to talk about this because we hadn't had time to talk about it. I was talking about everything else. But as far as these, the fact that we only get till 7:30 to speak. When it's more people in here, it's very unfair. No matter what, y'all are gonna have to sit here and listen to us at 11 or 12 o'clock. Regardless, you're gonna have to wait till the end. I don't know about anybody else, but some people can't wait that long. They are hurting, they're elderly, they can't wait that long to speak. So the fact that you're cutting people off from communicating with you guys, the fact that you're cutting people off from speaking, it takes 3.5 for this woman, 3.5 minutes. I counted 2.5, 3 minutes last time we had this meeting. And it takes them that long to say their little speech about rules like we're stupid or something. I just need y'all to just extend it, because sometimes they're really important things. Kids are here. If they wouldn't have taken the time to just, okay, say what they had to say and walk off, we wouldn't have had time to say what we had to say. And so I just feel like it's super unfair for y'all to, and it's, really, it was your choice, if I'm correct about that. And it's not cool, bro. Like, for real, it's not okay. And then, so I really think that you should just kind of rethink that, so that people can actually say what they have to say to you. We elected you as mayor. We elected Rocha as mayor pro tem. So yes, I understand that y'all like to focus on your constituents and say whatever you feel like you got to say, but that's not a fair game to play. All right, so I really feel like y'all should just double check that and allow the people to speak who are supposed to speak. There's been plenty of times where I've given up my thing to somebody else because they weren't going to be able to say it, so I just held back my comment until the end. Also, sorry, I just had a sidetrack. I want to thank you guys for, I don't know if it was Ms. Walker, since she's my number one district person, but I actually see people working on the park now. So I don't know if you called or did it, but I appreciate that, because they're actually got back there working now. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
There are no more speaker cards.
Is there anybody in the audience?
The gentleman in the audience would be fine, but Andrew Becker is okay for those who know me. I think a lot do. So, thank you. I want to say first, to respond to Mr. Hernandez's point about public safety and the priorities in the city. Over the last 3 or so weeks, I've had the pleasure of going through minutes and agendas from the 80s up into the 90s here in Antioch. I've gone through 87 to 91, so I'm getting there. And it's remarkable, the dollars that were spent here in this city that we don't talk about anymore, specifically through that redevelopment agency that was here in the city. And I had mentioned this before, and this is now my priority to understand where those dollars went, because we're not talking about a couple of millions of dollars. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Lots of money. And to Mr. Hernandez's point, in 1984, I believe, was when our first project Area 1 was created, which was what we know as the Summersville, downtown, A Street area, which at the time was 10% vacant and 90% developed. Those property taxes were frozen back in the 80s. And since that time, that project-based area drew conservatively $150 million in property taxes that went towards projects here in the city. What are those projects? That's the big question. Because when I drive through that project area, I don't see utilities underground. I don't see development in that area. I see economic subsidies that went to a Nissan dealership that never came into fruition and has now completely gone away in our city. and I don't see clawbacks of dollars. So I want to get a better understanding of what happened to these dollars. I see glimpses of projects, almost $100 million for the Lone Tree expansion, Frederickson Lane, the U.S. Steel project, Slatton Ranch, the Kmart, the first Kmart that was abandoned in our city. What have we gotten out of those dollars? Redevelopment agencies are going to become a big topic for me here in this city.
We have one more.
Please come to the podium.
Hi, I'm Mary Lutz. I just got a text message from somebody who usually comes here, and it's a really good question. So I figured that since she's asked me to say it, I'm going to. She would like to know when we are going to start giving out info on bomb shelters in case 47 decides to send us to war. So I think that's pretty legit considering they just sent 3 missiles over there. So there's my question. I'm hoping that it gets answered in the next few weeks, that maybe Antioch needs to have some kind of an emergency plan for something this extreme. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we will move on to agenda item number 1, proclamation. Do we have any comments, any public comments on the proclamation?
No, we do not.
All right, do I have a motion to accept the proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and second. Please cast your votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, is there anybody here to accept this tonight? I thought that I had seen that J.R. Wilson was supposed to be here, but I don't see him unless he's coming to the door right now. No, he's not. Okay, so I'll go ahead and read this. Port Chicago Remembrance Day, July 17th, 2025. Whereas the Port Chicago Naval Magazine, located approximately 8 miles west of Antioch, California, was the site where African-American sailors were exclusively assigned during World War II to the dangerous task of loading explosives onto cargo ships. Whereas on the night of July 17, 1944, a catastrophic explosion resulted in the deadliest home front disaster of the war, killing 320 people, most of them African-American sailors, injuring 390 others, and inflicting widespread damage on the nearby town of Port Chicago, California. Whereas 258 surviving African-American sailors, citing unaddressed safety concerns, protested the order to resume loading ammunition, drawing national attention to racial discrimination and hazardous working conditions in the military, and 50 of those sailors, known as the Port Chicago 50, were wrongfully charged and convicted of mutiny. And whereas on July 17, 2024, following persistent advocacy from the city of Antioch and other supporters urging action, President Joe Biden authorized Navy Secretary Carlos de Toro to exonerate the Port Chicago 50 and all 258 sailors involved, affirming the injustice they suffered and recognizing their actions as a pivotal moment in civil rights and military history. Now, therefore, I, Ron Burnell, Mayor of the City of Antioch and City Council, hereby proclaim July 17th as Port Chicago Remembrance Day, an annual observance to honor the victims of the Port Chicago disaster, recognize the bravery and legacy of the Port Chicago sailors, and educate future generations about this defining chapter in American history. Thank you. All right. All right. We will be moving on to announcements of civic and community events. Do you have any public comments on that?
There are no comments.
All right. There are no announcements of public and civic community events. City Council committee reports and council communications. Councilmember Freitas. All right, Councilmember Torres Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everyone out there. So none of my committees met. However, I did attend the Green Empowerment Zone Marketing Subcommittee meeting with Brett Sweet. Thank you, City Manager. And that meeting was really interesting. The Green Empowerment Zone Marketing Committee is looking at standing up a website as well as promoting cities within the Green Empowerment Zone so that we can highlight clean energy and manufacturing strategies here in the Green Empowerment Zone in Contra Costa County. Some of the things we discussed is what cities need to do to make themselves viable for sites, for green energy and manufacturing, to bring high road jobs. One of the things they discussed was cities needing resources to be selected as sites within this zone. What they stated is what kind of infrastructure do we have as a city? What initiatives do we have as a city for economic opportunities and growth? What are our streamlining processes for zoning? And what stories can we tell around clean energy and manufacturing to make Antioch viable for these new industries and jobs in the future? So thank you for talking about Antioch, because Antioch actually came up in that conversation, because one of the greatest infrastructures we have in the city of Antioch is our delta. Our ability for shipping. And so there were a lot of conversations around that. I'm hoping to be able to talk with the city manager and Brett Sweet about what will make Antioch a viable site for clean energy and manufacturing strategies in the near future. So that was a good meeting. I also attended Congress member Mark Desanye. I always say Garamendi and Mark Desanye at the same time. It's almost like Antioch is always caught between two divorced parents who don't want to claim custody of us. And that meeting was pretty interesting because the congressman talked a lot about the issues with the Big But Ugly bill, the impact that it was going to have on vulnerable communities if it passed, how we could potentially work together to make sure that vulnerable communities impacted by this bill and mass transfer of wealth over the next couple of years. Like, the questions that I was more concerned about is, what are we going to be doing in Antioch, like what was raised up by Frank tonight? What are we going to be doing to address some of these critical infrastructure issues when the infrastructure around critical safety net services, Medicare and Medicaid, starts to fail? And how are we going to protect seniors and veterans and young people? So it was a pretty interesting conversation, given that 4547 is now launching his own new Jim Crow campaign with the potential for convict leasing documented and undocumented immigrants out to farmers and just essentially violating people's rights. We're in a time where white Christian nationalists are quoting scriptures, and while self-deputized, masked men are kidnapping men, women, and children off our streets. Immigration is a moral issue, it's not a utility issue. Having discussions around people who are undocumented as if the only value that they bring to our community is their purposefulness and utility should be shameful. MAGA nuts and moderate conservatives are quoting MLK while justifying stripping free lunch programs for over 18+ million young people and other critical resources. One thing that the Congress member did mention was that cutting and dismantling and stripping away resources from our most vulnerable communities in an effort to reach efficiency is not the way to go. That what we should actually be doing is evaluating and assessing critical resources and looking at the intended consequences of doing so. I would like to say, as we did just tonight, pass a proclamation in support of Port Chicago at a time where Black lives did not matter. We are also now in a moment where we need to really have discussions about the rise in hate across our communities and across all ethnicities and cultures. What I want to say once again is that public safety is not about policing. Even cities with larger police departments struggle with high rates of crime. Why is that? Because they are not addressing the root cause of harm and violence in their communities. The city of Richmond, because they invested in a Department of Public Safety that it has a specific focus on addressing issues around violence in their community, a month ago when I had a phone call with them, they hadn't had one homicide. And we're 7 months into the year. That's progress, not because they invested in more policing infrastructure, but because they invested in the root causes of harm and violence in our community. I don't know why this continues to escape us in Antioch. I also want to say to Andrew, thank you for raising up these issues, which is why I call for a forensic audit in the city, which I think is super important because I have also had questions around what do we do with our redevelopment dollars and why are we being charged as homeowners to create infrastructure and give handouts with no clawbacks and no infrastructure creation in our communities. We don't have resources, we don't have money, and we say we in a deficit, but it's because of issues like what Andrew raised up today, that we aren't willing to look back and figure out historically what happened. And so I just wanna also thank Crystal for, again, raising up the public comment as an issue. Just because something is a policy and you can implement it doesn't make it right. You don't have to cut public speaking off at 7:30. It's a policy that you can utilize when you want to. And I think that we really need to reconsider silencing the voices of the community in a public space that our tax dollars spend money on.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So last week, Delta Diablo met, and we, after a Prop 218 hearing, the board voted to increase the rates for the services, for our service area. And I think I've said this a bunch of times here, it's an aging infrastructure. The facility's old, and this is a plant that takes in our wastewater, and we have to make sure the wastewater is not getting out, that people are safe, and we're not causing harm to the communities, and we're not causing harm to the environment. So the board, thought really long and hard, and so there is increased rates to the cities of Antioch and Pittsburgh at 8.5%, and the city or the area of unincorporated Bay Point 8.8%. This originally was going to be an 11% increase, but we were able to, the board was able to really look at the big picture to see how much we can bring it down for the residents so it doesn't impact them. Back in early March, myself and the general manager of Delta Diablo did travel to DC about funding to help with a lot of infrastructure issues that we have with the plant. And unfortunately, our current administration is not really open to giving funding, so we lost, so there's quite a bit of dollars we've lost to making sure this facility is going to be at get the upgrades that it needs and it deserves. Although the rate does seem kind of high, we're still below the average of all the wastewater facilities in our region. Again, the board thought long and hard, so this increase is going to be showing up in your tax bill, and but this will be it'll be put to good use to updating the facility. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Rocha.
The only committee that I met with during the time since our last meeting on the 24th was I represent the city with the League of Cities, which is the East Bay. There's 19 cities Alameda County and Contra Costa, and they meet monthly. And so that's a good source of information in regard to legislation that's happening nationally and in the state of California. But this recent one was more of a social event where they brought the mayors, council members, city leaders together to get to know each other in a fun way. So they had a cornhole contest, and I was asked to put together a team, and I looked to see if there's any interest. And Mayor Bernal and Brad Helfenberger and Anna Cortez and a couple of our City Works employees gathered a team, and out of all the cities, we took second place. We took the silver, and the only reason why I don't think we got the gold was because we were running out of time. So we played to 11 instead of 21. So we had to finish early at 9:30 because that's when the event was over. But we were right in the game, and I think with time we would have won. So I didn't realize that we had cornhole players in the city of Antioch, especially on our staff. But Anna Castro, she was on fire, and of course, the mayor and I and assistant city manager, we jumped in to try to contribute. But anyway, it was a fun time. On a serious note, I'd like to, I had some calls that came in during the last few weeks that are similar, and just want to commend our police department and Confire for responding to the fires that happened very close to the communities in Mira Vista Hills and out on Summersville. I have friends that live out there and who sent pictures, who took videos right up to their property lines, and no damage to their properties thanks to the alert response by the police department, knocking on doors, letting people know to be aware, to be ready to evacuate if necessary, and Confire for doing a remarkable job of protecting our properties and lives. So I just want to make sure that our first responders who sometimes are faced with very difficult challenges, especially in the social media and so forth, with whether they're doing a good job or not. I just think that what they did recently with the 2 fires in those 2 regions and not a loss of life or property, I think is commendable. I just wanted to put a shout out to Chief Vigil, Police Department, and Confire for your collaborative work in protecting our lives and our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I also attended Congressman DeSaulnier's town hall event, which was very good and well attended. The 4th of July parade on Friday was a great event. We had the honor of having Senator Schiff come out, U.S. Senator Schiff come out and walk with Councilmember Wilson and myself and Councilmember Freitas. Councilmember Torres Walker was riding in a float. Was it a float? I thought you told me it was a float. There was a.
No, I marched with the No Kings folks in the parade.
Okay, and so we also had Assemblymember Avila Farias with us, Supervisor Scales Preston, our Treasurer Rojas out there, Chief Vigil and his daughter marched. Had my little grandkids pull a wagon with candy. So it was just a great event, and I just want to thank everybody who was involved from the city staff side that put that whole event together, the parade, the rides, the concert, the fireworks. The police department did an outstanding job of having adequate public safety out there. Parks and Recreation, as usual, just did an amazing job of making sure that the event went off seamlessly. Public Works was out there working hard, code enforcement. So it was really a huge effort, which goes unnoticed by a lot of folks, but thank you, City Manager Scott, and thank you, Assistant City Manager Helfenberger, for just making that a really, really positive event. It was really, really great to see the community come together out there. Just from my comments quickly, the last 7 months have been very busy and full of a lot of hard work being done. We adopted our budget at our last City Council meeting, which was just a tremendous effort. We were working on a large deficit. It's been whittled down quite a bit. There's still more work to do, but that's something that's taken a lot of time and energy. And so the month of July, hopefully we can take a deep breath before we start up in August again with getting back to business. Violent crime and homicides and shootings, stolen vehicles are all down, some of them significantly, and so that is great news for our community. Something else that's really a big story is that our point in time count came out, which is a January count of our homeless population in the city of Antioch and around the country. So Antioch's point in time numbers went from 413 down to 236, a 42% decrease. And so that is probably, if you were to look across the state of California, probably one of the biggest drops in homeless unhoused population. When you look at other counties, Santa Clara went up 8%, San Mateo went up 15%, Alameda went down 3%, but Oakland went up 9%, and San Francisco went up 10%, just to compare what other cities did. So we still have 236 unhoused according to this point in time count. The efforts that the city has been making and continues to make are having an impact on the homeless population and on the number of people that are on the streets. The core team being part of that interaction, Opportunity Village, utilizing that for the $6.8 million for the homeless encampment out there on Sunset and Dav Park Court, and then just continuing to look for solutions, whether it's shelter, interim housing, the Comfort Inn, another potentially up to 70 beds for folks, or places. Actually, in that case, it's permanent supportive housing, so it would be a place for folks to permanently live. And so I just want to commend the city council on the hard work that's been done so far and the staff. And the numbers to me seem like they're bigger than what shows to me on the street, but we have to go with our point in time count. I'd also like to thank the county, who's worked really hard on the efforts here in the city and working collaboratively with us up till now and moving forward. So coming off of that and moving forward, in August and in September, we're going to be looking towards doing strategic planning for the next year up ahead, establishing our priorities, and moving forward together as a city council and a community towards accomplishing what's ahead of us. So there's been a lot of great work done, and there's a lot of work ahead of us. That will move on to item number 2, consent calendar for the city council. Do we have any items to be pulled? Consent calendar?
I and J.
Item I and J. Do we have any public comments on this? I'm sorry, ma'am. Now's not the. If you want to. That's not at this point in the meeting.
No.
Okay, go ahead for public comment.
Microphone. Go to the microphone, please. Oh, no
All right, thank you for coming down.
I'm here to tell you that your programs are to set us up to fail. I've been in your program at the motel, and they have no internet for you. They don't help you with trying to rehabilitate yourself, to get a job, to be successful in life, to become something. Your counselors are higher than the people that are even in the motels. My thing is, I've been there for 3.5 years, and I'm overlooked and overlooked. I had 3 jobs at one time, and I was still overlooked. So I want to know what we're really doing there. Are we getting housing? Are we bettering ourselves? Or are we just thrown right back out to the streets? What? There's no way. I can't afford housing with 3 jobs. I couldn't afford a place. Now I'm back to no job, no car, and back in the tent. You got all these funds, and now where are they going to? What are they doing? I see them with brand new cars, and them come in with all this nice stuff, the counselors and that. Something has to be done because it's 3.5 years now, and I still haven't been housed. I mean, they expect things of you, and you do it, and you get nowhere. I like to know what you're really doing for the homeless.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Andrew Becker.
Thank you. A couple of quick points on committee report outs for the committee that attends the Tri-Delta Transit. JPA, if you could request a report out on the park and ride that is planned there off of West 6th. I had conversations with staff there, and they had expressed that they had started a planning process but did not go into detail. I think it would be easier to get it through a report out from you all versus me going to them and taking staff time in a public records request. So I would request. Secondly, to Councilmember Torres Walker's points on Congressman DeSaulnier's town hall, I also went and sat in the back there at Dozier Libby and was frustrated. I ended up leaving before it was over because I couldn't understand a single thing that was being said with the acoustics in that place. I think the worst thing that you can do is give somebody a microphone in a gymnasium, unless they're like saying something simple like "Go Warriors." I mean, I didn't understand a single thing. And what's frustrating is as I leave, I spent 15, 20 minutes in the back talking to a staffer. And as I'm leaving, 3 other people left saying the same thing and asking if there was somewhere else they could watch it to get better audio. I think it's incredibly horrible that community members show up to a town hall and then have to leave to go ask to get video of it to be able to understand it, right? And so, and the video was amazing. The sound quality was amazing. So I'm glad to know that federal dollars are going where they need to go. But, you know, when I did speak with staff, I said, why didn't you go to Black Diamond or to Deer Valley High School to their auditorium? And they said, we tried, they were booked. Which is crazy because then when I left, I drove through those parking lots and they were dead. And so I said, well, why don't you work with the school district and the city on finding a location? They said, well, we have to create a list of like 20 times for these town halls because the congressman will keep getting called back to Washington for votes. And so I said, well, why don't you just create a list of those 20 dates and give them to the city and the school district and see if they can find adequate locations and set those aside. And then create a process where up to a month to that event, an individual could come within and rent it if they haven't given the proper notice, because they're gonna give you at least 30 days notice. Then I thought to myself, well, I gotta go because I have to make dinner and I should not be solving these problems for the city and the school district. But I wanted to bring that to you all, so maybe you could share that with them. Also, to the lady's point, hopefully she watches the recordings. It's a struggle to get housing, but hopefully with these PSH beds and other opportunities, we can get vouchers. I was on a call today with Hope Solutions, and they are committed to finding beds. So if she's out there and she hears this, my name's Andrew Becker, 925-499-9248. Call me and I'll help you find a place.
Thank you. All right, any other?
Yes, the next speaker is Crystal Law.
I didn't know we were on K already.
We're on just on the city council and mayor's comments. City council committee report outs and mayor's comments was the item.
Okay, I'm just wanted to do K.
Okay. All right. Any other public comments on that item?
No, there are none.
Okay, so we have items I, J, K. Any other items to be pulled from the agenda? All right, do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion approving the agenda, approving the consent calendar with the exception of I, J, and K.
All right, motion, second?
I'll second.
We have a motion second, please cast your votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, item I, resolution approving the Second Amendment to the Consulting Services Agreement between the City of Antioch and TM Consulting Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $60,000 for a total agreement amount of $173,000 and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the amendment. City Manager Scott.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is for the new fiscal year through December to continue the services of Tracy Miller at $10,000 a month through December.
All right, Councilman Freitas.
This question may be to legal counsel. So on the staff report, we have the fiscal impact, and it basically is saying that we're going to be paying $10,000 a month for 6 months. And when you look at the resolution, it also indicates the $60,000 through December 31st, 2025. But when you look at the first page of the scope of work from Tracy Miller, it says, this agreement shall commence on July 1st, and the terms of the agreement will be for 12 months, you know, from the date of commencement. This price is all inclusive, and there will be no other expenses. So even though the scope of work that she has, which also has signature plates for the city manager and for the consultant, I would assume that the second paragraph needs to be changed so that the action step concurs with the scope of work.
That is correct. There's a revision to for the term to 6 months.
Right, even though the scope of work that we have in our packets say 12 months.
That's correct.
So there's a new one?
Yes, there's an amendment to the term for the scope of work
Okay,
at 6
we haven't
months.
seen it, so I just want to clarify that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? All right, do we have a motion to adopt item number I?
I'll move to approve.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, consent calendar item J, authorization of payment to DTA totaling $65,920 for consulting services in association with the City of Antioch Community Facilities District's PW 706. City Manager Scott.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor and City Council. Director Bunting is here to explain this item.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Yes,
Good
go ahead.
evening. On October 24th of 2017, the city entered into a 3-year agreement with David Townsing and Associates, now known as DTA. The work performed under this agreement included developing the administrative service budget and assistance with placing the assessments on the property tax rolls for each of our community facility districts, for public services, police protection, and our other police protection CFD. On January 1st of 2021, the city amended the agreement to continue these consulting services and extend DTA's agreement to December 31st of 2021. Following the expiration of this agreement, city staff continued to engage DTA for the preparation of administrative budgets and assessment rolls to support the CFDs through calendar year 2023. Although a formal contract was not in place during this period, staff has verified that DTA performed the invoices services, and staff is recommending that City Council authorize payment in the amount of $65,920 to DTA. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Right.
So, Mr. Mayor, this astounds me that we are basically being asked to approve expenditures of more than $65,220 for work that was done 2 years ago. There was no contract to do the work, and I find that astounding. So the question I have, and it's a procedural one, and you may not be the right person, Mr. Bunting, but when there is a consultant services agreement approved by the City Council, when the consultant is doing the work, I'm assuming the consultant sends the billing to the City of Antioch. Does it go to the project manager and finance? Does it just go to the project manager? Does it go to finance? Who gets the bill?
In most cases, it's the person who's authorized the contract. So it would be not necessarily finance, but the person in charge of the contract.
So working with consultants for more than 40 years, if they don't get paid, they're usually calling within 31 days, you know, and I'm shocked that work continued, billing was sent out, and we never paid it. until now. How is that possible?
There was a lot of back and forth between the consultant and staff, and the contract was never executed. There was discussions made. Contract work continued. The work that was initially contracted continued, but the contract was not executed. The contract was not extended past 2021, but the work did continue by the consultant.
Again, how is that possible? I mean, you know, so work is continued. There's no existing contract. Billings, I mean, you gave us billings for the two CDFs, CFDs, I'm sorry. So it raises the question of oversight. And so that is the question I have of the city manager and staff. You can report back at a later time. But hopefully this is an outlier, but I just cannot believe that 2 years later, we are being asked to pay for this bill. I mean, the consultant didn't come forward. The finance didn't raise an issue. I mean, was it just billing were just put in a file and forgotten, yet the work was done? I don't get it.
The work was done through 2023, and the invoice that's being paid for is for that work.
Yeah,
that was performed.
2 years later. So
Yes,
tell
sir.
me what happened during those 2 years.
No work was performed by TDA under this contract.
And nor was a consultant paid in 2023.
Contractor has not been paid. This is to try to pay him for the work that was done during that period.
So when we have a project manager overseeing and they receive a bill, is it only their signature that's needed to send the bill to finance to pay? Or as the department head, do you second sign? I mean, how does that work?
May depend on the size of the bill that's going in, how it's being processed, who's the ones looking at it. At this time, the system was different than the system is now. There's better checks and balances now. How this went it is an outlier. I agree with you. More contact should have been made from both consultant and staff. It did not happen. We became aware of this situation, and this is our attempt to try to make it right. The work was done. It was done out of contract, and we're trying to just finish off the contract. The consultant is due the money. He has performed the work. It was a lapse that staff did not have him under contract.
So what is different in checks and balances from 2 years ago? Tell me so that even outliers don't happen again.
So I believe the system's different that we use just in processing financial things. More electronic, it's going through systems that has to pass through signatures by multiple people. I believe there's less paperwork that's being done now than there was, even a few years back. That allows us to keep better track of these sort of things. There's also a better chance of us keeping track of these. I believe now there's better oversight on contracts like this. They wouldn't get this far without there being some sort of acknowledgement. I believe currently staff has a better handle on things like this, not just us, but as we work with finance, city attorney's office, everybody. This is an outlier, agreed 2 years late, but the truth is trying to make it right now and trying to make sure that this does not happen again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Do we have any other comments from council or questions? No? No public comments on this item? No? All right.
Well, actually,
Yes.
what I do want to do is thank you for catching this. We know that we have a lot of outdated systems in the city, and I want to thank the city manager for actually coming in. Whether it's an outlier or not, new systems have always been needed, new processes and procedures and checks and balances. So, just want to say no vehicle is without flaws, but thank you for catching it. Hopefully we reconcile this and it doesn't happen again, now that we have a city manager that is actually looking into these things and working with you all to fix the issues.
All right. Any other questions? Do we have a motion to adopt this item, Jay?
I'll move to approve, what is it, item?
Item J.
Item J, authorization of payment to DTA.
All right, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, please cast your votes.
The motion passes 4-1.
Which council member voted no?
Councilmember Freitas.
Okay, thank you. Item number K, the consent calendar, resolution approving lot lease agreement with Sean McCauley Investments Incorporated for approximately 2,540 square feet of land adjacent to One Marina Plaza for a period of 10 years and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the agreement. City
Thanks
Manager
so much,
Scott.
Mayor and City Council. Our Assistant City Manager, Helfenberger, is coming up to discuss this item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As stated, this item is to approve a lot lease agreement for approximately 2,540 square feet of land adjacent to One Marina Plaza for a period of 10 years. This is with Sean McCauley Investments. This land is a part of the lot that is adjacent to the Smith's Landing restaurant, where Sean McCauley Investments proposes to construct an outdoor seating area that will accommodate approximately 25 folks, which would increase the capacity of the restaurant from 299 to 324. Happy to take any questions that the City Council has, and also Mr. McCauley is present if there are any questions for him. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any public comment on this?
Yes, the first comment is Crystal Law.
Thank you. So, I wanted to speak on this item similar to some of my previous comments about how dollars were spent here in this city. And here we are in 2025, looking at ways to improve a facility and generate revenue on a space that we are currently debt servicing. And it's crazy to me that we're in 2025, a marina came into existence in the 80s, and we are debt servicing that. And it's even crazier to me to think that we're debt servicing that as the individuals that issued that debt. So we're just paying interest and principal and interest and principal, and the history goes all the way back to how the funds are transferred, interfund transfers. And while at the same time council talks about, should we build a park over here on the other side of downtown, my question is, why not go a step further here at the marina? Councilmember Freitas has talked about the state of the parking lot in that marina and the struggles there. And so we're gonna be talking about having to carve out dollars for operations on top of the dredging, right? And maintenance. And so we're continually running deficits, which means really on paper, I would 90% say, I'm confident in saying that marina, I don't think has ever net positive with the debt service that we're doing and the operating costs. I don't think that marina has ever net positive. We're talking about significant transfers in the past, millions of dollars. And so this is the time to use your authority in issuing debt to partner with right developers that are invested and redevelop that marina space, that downtown marina space. Pittsburgh is talking about doing it with their space, which is crazy to me that Pittsburgh's talking about improving their marina space while everybody here locally talks about how Pittsburgh's marina space is the prime space to go to. So we're gonna get even farther left in the dust. So I'll give you an idea. Don't just look at a patio space there. Because you took away that beautiful park space to create that boat space, because that was state funding that we needed and we lost out in the library, so we had to have something. Why don't you bring back an open space in that area, an additional commercial space where that parking is? And the infrastructure for the old Humphreys and Smith's Landing that is underground runs through that space, so you have infrastructure on that side of the property. So use your consultant dollars to figure out what improving that open space with infrastructure on site looks like, and developer partners surrounding looks like, and lease up that space and improve that space. So that in 3 or 4 years, when you hold your 4th of July parade downtown, people come there and they spend dollars and they utilize that open space. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions for the gentleman who, for Sean McCauley. So one of the questions is, and even one of you guys could probably answer this because I haven't looked too much into it, but I do know about SMI, and I know that SMI has bought up a lot of the business spaces here to do like salons and all that other stuff. Though they have a lot of people who come out and try to clean it up and fix it, they're not all in the best areas, and they're not the best kept up. One of them, we had a fire in one of them that was over in Sycamore for the longest time it just stayed the way it was. It wasn't fixed up or anything. Although I do appreciate that when he does lease out, the leasing is a little bit cheaper than what would normally be. So in that aspect, I do appreciate it. But I just want to know, like, what's included in this 10 years, and why does it have to be a 10-year plan so we can make sure that it's not just taking away from, but that it's adding to. I want it to add to the community so that when we're walking down here, or we have people down here, it's not taking away from what we've already got. So I'm just curious to know, like, what's included in that 10 years? How much are we going to be gaining from this? Are we going to be gaining anything, or is it just going to be given to take away from what's already there? I'm not sure exactly. Again, I haven't done my research, so please forgive me. But exactly where is it? And is it right behind Monica's? Because we have like the AA meetings and stuff right there. We have people there who really need that space for, their meetings. It's actually a comfortable place to be at, because it's right here by the water, and it gives people a place to go. So I'm just a couple of questions, and then I'll definitely do my research, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments, public comments?
There are no more comments.
All right, any questions or comments from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I do think Mr. Heffenberger might want to come up and explain the benefits to the community here and now. And the location.
Sure. The location is on the backside of the Smith's Landing restaurant. So it's about 2,500 square feet. Currently, I think there's an anchor that's sitting in a grass area. So the proposal is to turn that into an outdoor seating area to be part of the Smith's Landing restaurant. There's also a walking path that goes around it that'll be unaffected. So it won't affect community access to the marina or the other outdoor areas. The intent is that it will enhance the marina and also expand the seating capacity of the restaurant. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Freitas, what was the other question?
Financial benefit?
Yes, so Sean McCauley Investments will be paying for this space in the lease agreement. It begins at a modest $100 per month and then increases to what is market rate. We did have a survey done that determined what the market rate is for that rent, and it will increase to, in the 5th year, $600 per month, and then we'll have consumer price index increases in each year following.
And the consumer price index is the San Francisco Oakland CPI?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Does Mr. McCauley have any words he wants to say, or? No? Because you almost got up one time. I was just curious. Sure.
She's good.
Okay, she's good? Okay. No, I was just checking because it looked like you had the little motion of you're going to get up, so. Just checking.
All right, good. Any other comments or questions? Please, have a motion to approve this item. Okay.
Move to approve item K, resolution approving lot lease agreement with Sean McCauley Investments Incorporated.
All right, a motion of a second.
Second.
All right, please cast your votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on to council regular agenda. Item number 3, Planning Commission appointment for one partial term vacancy expiring October 2025. It's recommended that the mayor nominate the candidate for appointment and the city council adopt a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of William Spiker to the Planning Commission for the partial term vacancy expiring October 2025. Any-
Is he here?
I do not see him here. Oh, I'm sorry, there you are. Sorry. You're hiding in the back. I thought you were one of our planners. All right, yes, Mr. Spiker is here.
Normally somebody will read the bio, but if we don't read it, then maybe he could come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Bill.
Mayor,
Yes.
council members. My name is William Spiker. I'm actually very honored and deeply humbled by the nomination for the open position of Planning Commissioner. I have some experience in doing some community service. I mean, you could, I think in the packet you see my resume, if you will. By nature, I'm a financial analyst, data analyst with Kaiser Permanente, but I have done some, work mainly in support of a homeowners association, serving on a couple different boards, volunteering my time and knowledge and expertise to balance budgets and to generally meet the needs of the homeowners themselves within the homeowners association. I believe I have the ability to actually consider difficult concepts, apply rules and accept guidance and work collaboratively with the other planning commissioners to actually come to an agreement and meet the needs of our citizens in support of economic development here in the city of Antioch, as well as to try and improve the way of life and enjoyment that the citizens of the city of Antioch deserve.
All right, thank you. I also would just like to add that I appreciated Mr. Spiker's preparation for the interview. He had attended and watched many planning commission meetings, had read through the whole CIP, which was pretty impressive because I'm not sure all the council did, but it was a long document. But it's I just felt that you had shown the interest and done the homework, and I believe you'll do an excellent job. So,
Well, thank you for your faith in me, Mr.
Right.
Mayor.
You had me up until you said HOA. No, I'm messing with you. Thank you for wanting to serve.
Thank you very much, Councilmember.
all right, any other questions or Mr. Spiker? All right, do we have a motion to approve Mr. Spiker as our planning commissioner for partial term vacancy expiring October 2025?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Please cast your votes.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
All right.
Good job.
I hope you
Thank
know
you.
what you get yourself in.
I've had some discussions with existing planning members, and yeah, yes, I'm still willing to serve and eager to serve.
Perfect, thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
your service.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 4, Alluvium LLC Lemonade, review and possible adoption of resolution approving proposed change in ownership. City managers, all right, yes, so the city attorney would be taking this.
Yes, Honorable Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you very much for this. Lemonade is also known as Alluvium LLC, currently has an approved cannabis business at Crow Street as indicated in the staff report. That entity entered into a receivership in Contra Costa Superior Court in June of 2024. And in January of this year, the court approved the sale of the assets of Lemonade to a qualified cannabis or suitable cannabis operator. And that also included acquisition of all the assets of Lemonade, which with the operating permit is such an asset. Normally, this would be something that goes through the advisory committee prior to coming to council. However, since this agenda item since the transfer and the approval of the sale of the assets has already been approved by the court in January, we at the city attorney's office felt that expediency was important to enable that judgment to be fulfilled. They have identified a purchaser. It's indicated in the staff report that this is Catalyst, but there's been a small mix-up, so there's a couple of small changes to the resolution, and I'm going to spell them out for you. During the receivership, the business was managed by South Chord Management LLC. However, that entity is not the entity that is going to be acquiring the assets, which would include Alluvium or Lemonade's permits to operate. That is going to be, and needs an amendment to indicate that it'll be Catalyst Antioch LLC, which is a California limited liability corporation that is wholly owned by South Chord Holdings LLC. So different acquiring entity than the one that's currently operating it, but approved by the court. Also, in the initial draft of the resolution, it was indicated that this acquisition was going to be made by a stock transfer. In other words, the ownership stock of Lemonade would be acquired by Catalyst Antioch LLC, but in fact it is a straight acquisition of the assets, not a stock transfer. So we need to make sure that a revised resolution is prepared to reflect those two changes in order for the receiver to be able to have it all be approved consistent with the court order. So with that, I would ask that if there is a motion made to approve this item, which we do recommend, that it be made subject to those two amendments in a revised resolution, and then that will be prepared for you. And I'm happy to take any questions from council if you have any.
All right. Any public comments on this item?
Yes, I have a speaker card from Kevin Singer.
Good morning, good afternoon, Council. My name is Kevin Singer, and I'm the Superior Court receiver who works for Judge Terry Mockler. I had a presentation for you, but the city attorney basically stole my presentation, but he did a better job delivering it than I ever could, so I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate the compliment. Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to let the council know that we spent a great deal of time trying to locate the best and most reputable and most credible operator to come into your community. And I believe we've accomplished that with Catalyst. They've been in business since 2020, and they now have 30 retail locations. A vote in favor of this today will protect and preserve this business. It'll protect the jobs of the employees who most of them live in the city of Antioch. It'll continue the revenue and the taxation through this business. And we just think that this is a very good partner for the community. And I just want to thank you on behalf of myself and Judge Mockler for taking the time to consider this and hopefully approve this motion. And if you have any questions of me, I'm happy to answer them as well.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment?
Yes, Andrew, please come to the podium.
Thank you. I think some of my questions were more for staff and maybe to the original use permit that was put on the property. And this is some of the same concerns that I brought up to Cocoa Farms when they first opened. Wondering with the original use permit that came out, was there a site plan given? And was there an expectation of how the property was to be used? Because the last time when I dropped somebody out there for Uber, I only saw one ADA space in the front. Over 25 vehicles, you have to have two There was a second ADA, but it looked like it was out in a field, and it was next to a 40-foot bus that's next to some picnic tables that looks like a band touring bus. I don't know if that's a employee space or what that is, but would like to get an idea of how the property is being used, right? It is a commercial space. Is that an employee break area? Is that meant for the patrons when they come? And more importantly, for the ADA, I mean, understanding that the intent of cannabis originally in California was medical as well as recreational. And so you have a lot of individuals with medical needs, accessibility needs. So like a doctor's office, you don't necessarily steer towards those traditional ADA parking ratios and you always go higher. You would expect that the front parking would be probably 4 or 5 ADA with a couple of them for van drop-offs, because I've had to take people and drop them off on the street because there's no space in the parking lot for them to appropriately maneuver. And I guess once again, the last question is, was that in the use permit that was originally put out? Is there a new use permit for the new occupant because it's a change in ownership? So is this that use permit that's being approved, and shouldn't it have come with the site plan like that typically goes to Planning Commission? Wondering what the process is for that. And then also within that specific site, there is some undeveloped area. So wondering if the future tenants have an idea to grow or to build in that space. That might be a good conversation for the city to have at the same time that they welcome them in. And maybe a good idea for the individual coming in to give an idea of what that growth might look like. So just wondering, you know, if there's a more engaged process for business coming into the city and continuing, considering that if it's coming out of receivership, it was probably struggling initially. And as a city and a taxpayer, I want to support them so we can grow and successfully work together and get that revenue. So a lot of points, but would like to get a little clarity, hopefully. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments?
There are no other public comments.
All right, any questions or comments from staff? Yes, Councilmember Torres.
I can answer some of those questions. So the original operating agreement provides an assignment clause. It does not involve a review of the conditions upon the use or issuance of that original permit, but it is to present the city with an opportunity to review the new potential operators' experience, knowledge, expertise, also financial stability. This is proposed to be transferred to the second largest operator in the state, so there's quite a bit of support for financial stability, as pointed out by the speaker, in terms of, you know, are there concerns about whether this is going to maintain jobs? So these are the aspects that are considered, and as part of the assignment, it's not consideration of a review of the initial use permit, but in the operating agreement, all of the conditions that are being assumed will have to be observed and followed by the new operator. So there is room to have dialogue over you know, what the community impacts are moving forward pursuant to that agreement. I haven't reviewed the specifics of exactly the mechanics of how that happens, but each one of these operation agreements have provisions contained within them that allow for that.
All right, yes, Councilmember Fraser.
Mr. Mayor, the Cannabis Subcommittee of the City Council is City Council Member Tamisha Torres Walker and myself. As you know, as we have reported, we are reviewing everything that involves the cannabis business in the city of Antioch. Derek Cole has been directed to look at the ordinance, to update the ordinance, make sure it complies with existing or new state, federal requirements. We're looking at some of the terms and conditions that are called out in that particular ordinance, as well as the guidance, because there are some things in the guidance document that are not in the ordinance. We also have had discussions that the subcommittee will be going to each and every one of these dispensaries and reviewing them, concerns about public safety, as well as some of the financial situations, accounting, for the revenue that's generated by the city, as well as each of these operators undertaking some community good and financing some of it. So I think what you will see in the next couple of months is that the subcommittee will be coming back with several recommendations about making things current, trying to address some of the issues. We also want to actually engage the owners, operators in a public meeting and have a general overall discussion. We also are involving the police department. Captain Desmond Bentner has been the staff assigned, and so he has certainly heard some of the issues that the committee has raised. So I think that, as the city attorney said, this is an assignment, but there is a whole lot that the committee is looking at and considering, and will be coming back to you with recommendations.
All right, thank you.
I do remember having a conversation around alluvium and lemonade, some past conversations. One of my biggest concern about this, and I know, it's procedural, we have to do it, is that there are factors that factor into the operating agreement, security protocols, things like that, where the police department does do a walkthrough to make sure that everything is up to the city standard based on our local municipality and what our requirements are. And I don't know the last time the police department has actually did a walkthrough of this particular facility, if things will be the same, if they will be different. There are security requirements for armed and not armed security requirements that also need to happen. So I think, given that it's a new operator, the new operator need to be aware of our standards locally and need to meet those standards. The other question I have is related to the cannabis equity program piece of all of this. Did Lemonade/Alluvium have a equity partner? Because that is a part of our operating agreements in the city of Antioch, that a operator has to have an equity partner. So does Catalyst, who will be the new operator, have they already identified a equity partner? Is the city stepping up to identify that equity partner? Who is it? Will that relationship continue? So, there's just a lot of concerns I have around that we haven't got to discuss it in the standing committee. And so if we can get if some of those questions could be answered for me around our local standards and the equity partnership, that would be nice.
Yes, I think I can answer some of those questions. The equity partner that is partnered with this firm is Opportunity Junction. And my understanding is that under receivership, the payments both to the city, the fees for cannabis and the payments to Opportunity Junction have continued, and the new operator intends to continue those.
And has the police department, is everything the same from the last operator? Do they have, is everything?
That's my understanding. I can't speak for the police department on when they've last visited. Oh, please.
I've been running, operating, and overseeing it since February of this year, and I know they've gone by on occasion. We've never had any citations or anything of that nature. We've always been on good terms. We haven't had any incidents or any robberies or anything of that nature. Yeah.
Thank
you. And by the way, the receivership and my judge will still be overseeing the business until they get a new state license. So we'll be around for a while to make sure everything is in compliance and that it stays in compliance.
Thank you.
Is Lemonade current on all of the fees that they're responsible for paying?
Yes, we are current through May, and we just made the payment today for June, so we are current.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And then the change in name from yeah, from South Chord Management to Catalyst Antioch LLC. It's still under Catalyst, so the parent company is still the same, so it
Yeah,
shouldn't.
it's a wholly owned entity, South Chord Holdings LLC. So right now, it's being operated by South Chord Management LLC. They aren't the subordinate entity that is acquiring the assets. That's Catalyst Antioch LLC. So we had that change in the name, but the holding company that wholly owns Catalyst Antioch LLC is South Chord Holdings LLC.
So the financial information that was provided is still consistent?
It is consistent with that, yes.
Okay. And then the other question I have is related to, I think we have 9 or 10 cannabis facilities in Antioch currently. During the receivership process, was there an investigation into whether the cannabis industry in Antioch is saturated, or if there's room for growth as part of this process of acquiring this property?
We haven't done any type of study of that nature. You know, it's a viable business, and you know, it is competitive in Antioch, but it's doing well, and Catalyst is excited to be part of this market, and you know, has some competitive advantages because they're vertically integrated and they grow all their own product.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Mayor.
Yes.
That your question has been raised by the subcommittee, and that is one of our focuses in the next couple of months, and we'll be coming back and having that discussion with the whole council.
Okay.
This industry is becoming aggressively oversaturated in California overall. Larger operators can exist. Smaller boutique operators are starting to dwindle and struggle. And the industry is constantly changing. And so that's why the committee requested an overall overview, make sure we're still in alignment with the state standard, but keeping our local standards, but also understanding the overall economic impact to Antioch as far as jobs and revenue, as well as the issue of oversaturation. I already know that I'm not giving my vote to approve any more dispensaries in District 1 because we are oversaturated, and that oversaturation occurred due to we have a lot of industrial areas, so it was possible in District 1, but we just can't take any more operators in this district. And we also need to review our boundary overlay and those policies, and a lot of that will be happening in the standing committee, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. Any other questions from council? Do we have a motion to approve the resolution with the change that South Chord Management LLC is going to become Catalyst Antioch LLC, I believe, and then also from 100% of the shares to become 100% of the assets?
That is correct. Yeah, those are the two changes.
All right. So we have a motion with those two changes.
So moved.
All right, I have a second.
I'll second.
All right, please cast your votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 5, resolution approving the consolidated engineer's report and declaring intention to levy and collect assessments for the Hillcrest, Citywide, Downtown, Almond Ridge, Lone Tree, and East Lone Tree Streetlight and Landscape Maintenance Districts, and setting a public hearing, PW 500.
Thanks so much, Mayor and City Council. Director Bunting is here for this item.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The city's street lighting and landscaping assessment districts are funding mechanism used to fund the maintenance of various landscaping lighting improvements in the city. Assessments are levied annually to pay and or contribute towards the costs associated with maintaining, operating, and servicing these improvements. In order to levy the assessments annually, there is an annual process required. This is outlined by state statute commonly known as the 1972 Act, and must be completed prior to the county deadline of August 10th of each year in order to place these assessments on the secured Contra Costa County property tax bill. The council completes this process annually through an action taken in 3 council meetings. The first action requires the city to initiate proceedings in order to prepare the engineer's report. On March 11th of this year, the City Council adopted a resolution to initiate proceedings and directed the preparation of this annual report. The second action occurring tonight and requires the city to adopt a resolution accepting the engineer's report and setting a date and time for the annual public hearing. The public hearing is proposed to take place on July 22nd at the July 22nd City Council meeting. The third action will take place on the July 22nd council meeting, when the council will hold a public hearing and take public testimony. Following the closing of public hearing, the council will consider the final engineer's report and levy assessments for fiscal year 25-26. For tonight's actions, I want to highlight a couple items regarding this year's engineer's report. There are no increases or changes in the assessment rates when compared to last year, and the city will be levying the same assessment rates as levied last year. The projected street lighting and landscaping assessment district revenue for fiscal year 25-26 is approximately $2.3 million. Staff requests the council to accept the engineer's report and set a date and time for a public hearing of July 22nd. The street lighting and landscaping district's assessments revenue for fiscal year 25-26 are estimated, as I said, to be approximately $2.3 million. Maintenance costs are estimated at approximately $7.1 million. After applying the available assessments, the balance of $4.8 million, it's estimated, will be needed to be covered through the general fund or other means, and this money is already incorporated in the adopted fiscal year 25-26 budget. Today, I have our Deputy Director of Public Works with me. I have our consultant, Brian Brown, with ClearSource Financial Consultants. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, there are two hands up. Andrew, please come to the podium.
Thank you. I guess a couple more questions. Why do we keep approving new housing developments and assessment districts that are not bringing in sufficient dollars to maintain these resources in the community? And this is not just for, like, how do we hear that there's not going to be a change in the assessments levied, but there's a transfer of $4.8 million because of deficit and cost that the general fund has to pay? How did we get to a place where new homeowners could come in and could have streets and roadways, and the old homeowners have to pay for it when they don't even get to go to those communities? And that's really what it boils down to. That's genuinely what it boils down to. When you look at where those dollars are gonna go, right? It all comes into your main roads and then your arterials and your cul-de-sacs and the landscaping. And I live up in Pruitt Ranch, and that median hasn't been redone in decades. And now we know why, or we've known why, because those assessment fees don't pay for that. And our impact fees don't change, and our assessment fees don't change, and our general fund supports it. And as you go back through this engineer's report, it says that this has been the case, that we've been moving dollars over from the general fund since the late 90s, and probably before, except that's when the laws were changed. Like, this is literally painting a picture of where all of our dollars are going. Special assessment districts, $4.8 million is being transferred out of a general fund to pay for maintaining lights and streets. How many cities are doing that? That would not fly in Brentwood. That would not fly in Pittsburgh. And yet we have developers coming in and proposing thousands of new units, and we're not changing our fees? And the people recommending it, frankly, are staff, and we're hearing that one of our biggest issues in this city for funds is our unfunded pension liabilities. Like, I'm getting frustrated as a city as a city community member. Where are our dollars going? Why are you not maintaining our streets? Why are you not levying appropriate fees? This is not rocket science. You don't know how much those street signals are going to cost to maintain. You wouldn't, because you allow Contra Costa to do it and you pay them. And you wouldn't know how much the parks or the medians cost, because you just allow TerraCare to come in and do 6 amendments to their contract. And that's my time. So I'll keep coming until we're broke.
The next speaker is Crystal.
I just have a couple of questions. So what's already been done? What have we already paid for? Because I could tell you millions of streets that don't have good lights on them. I've hit a dog. I almost hit a child. Like, there's a lot of lights in District 1 that, we sure could use, including down here, on 6th Street. So I don't really know about Hillcrest area, but I sure know on Sycamore area, it's not enough lighting when you're coming around that corner and we got a baby crosswalk right there and people almost getting hit. I walk down there every day. You can't even see the people crossing the dang street. So what has already been done, and where are we planning on doing this? And I thought that landscaping was done by the terrace people for the ones that we already can't do. So if we're already allocating funds to them, how come they can't do the landscaping or whatever else needs to be done? I'm not sure how that works, but I'm sure that you guys could explain it. And then also, as far as, we, on Sycamore, people drive by there every day. There's a lot of maintenance that could be done down there, not just picking up the furniture that's thrown on the side of the road, because people in big trucks, and I'm not just talking about the people who live there, but people who just come down there just to dump their stuff. But there's no maintenance or anything being done on that street as far as landscaping. It looks like shit. It looks like crap. Like, we don't get nobody to cut the grass over there. So if you guys aren't taking care of your part, how do you expect us to take care of our part? So I'm just curious as far as the money wise, what's already been done as far as the street lights, what's already been done as far as the landscaping, because I'm just being a little bit honest, I ain't seen it. And I've lived here since 2004, and the same dull ass lights are on the same streets, Astor, 6th Street. I could write down a whole list of streets that need lighting, that kids play on, that we have animals, we have things. So I need a little bit more explanation.
All right, any other public comments?
Since we're on the topic of maintenance, where I live on Villadora, the city is responsible for this hill that's across the street. That's a huge eyesore, I can tell you. Of course, with my memory, I remember every tree you planted there. You put mulch on the hill in 1987 and never came back to maintenance it. It's never had any more mulch. All the trees are half dead. They are in some state of dying because the sprinklers never work for the past 40 years, all at the same time. So, maybe out of 75 sprinklers, maybe 20 work. And this is a problem because you have the maintenance company come, and they don't, once a year they maintain the hill, and then they mow a foot of grass on either side of the sidewalk. But what about the rest of the hill? It's terrible. And we just had a few fires in our neighborhood over the 4th of July. That whole thing can go up in smoke, all of Villadora, and it's city maintained property. And I see over the years that you have chosen to maintain the very least of the property that you own, 6 inches on one side, and then the sidewalk. What are you gonna do? It looks, it's not fair to us, the citizens. We have to look at all these trees half dead and figure out which sprinkler is shooting up in the air so we can call the city to come turn it off. What you maintain is now a hazard. Not to mention on Viadora, and Deerfield. The abandoned fire station since 1994 is sitting there. I'm sure it's county property. Do something about it. It's going to cause a huge fire. So I don't know if people go out and actually look at our town, but we're gonna go up and smoke. People don't care anymore. People don't care if fireworks are illegal. They're gonna do what they wanna do, but who's gonna pay the price is the homeowners. We're gonna lose our property. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
There are no more comments.
All right. Ms. Scott, could we have Director Bunting maybe address some, these are some actually good questions, and maybe address
Yes.
how the program works, how the funding is allocated, CFDs versus assessment, the lighting and landscape districts, different things.
I'll do my best. I'll ask for some help if needed. In general, these lighting landscaping districts are underfunded. I think that's plain to see. And they're funded at the maximum assessment that we can at this time. If more funding is needed, then the assessments would need to be raised, and that would be, I believe, a vote of the people. So it is what it is in terms of what our assessments are. And then the work that's done is done by TerraCare. Often they are one of our landscape maintenance people, and they do provide work within our right-of-way. Part of the other, we can talk to their thing. One other aspect that was discussed was lighting in general. Different project. We are looking to roll something out here relatively quickly. We've been talking about it for a little bit, changing over our lights to LEDs, getting really close to finalizing that package and looking to roll something out to improve the street lighting. Predominantly, it'll start, first phase will be in the downtown area. I'll let our deputy director talk a little bit more about the work that's covered within the CFDs.
Scott, before you leave, the lighting aspect, that's a different funding source than this, correct?
Yeah, this is a different lighting. It's actually different than what we're really talking about, but it's been discussed, that level of lighting. It will be addressed, not with this contract, but with a different contract, not with these funds either. It's something that's already been partially approved by council.
But these funds don't pay for street lighting, correct?
Not in this case, no.
Okay. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So they mentioned the CFDs. Those were enacted by the city, I think, in 2018 to fund all the new developments. And those do have appropriate taxes to maintain those new areas. So what is being proposed tonight is not to maintain those new areas. This is for specific zones that are outlined in the packet. The map you see there, those are the specific zones that this assessment will apply to. So I wanted to clear that up.
Can you address the Viadora Hill fire break work, I think is what was being referenced, and why there might be dead trees and open space that's not
So I
needed?
believe the hill that's being referenced is one that's not under city maintenance. It's part of the HOA of those apartments. The hill further down is completely fire abated by the city, and it's not a hazard right now. When you enter Viadora off of Hillcrest, the hill to the left is part of the HOA.
Okay, thank you. Can you also address one more time, the max base rates that cannot be exceeded because there was no CPI built into them when Prop 218 passed and has us maxed out?
So I'm not an expert on this, but what I understand is that it would take a vote of the people under Prop 218 to vote to raise the assessment. So the same assessment that was set at the time that they were formed it sets the base rate. So there's some zones where the residents are paying like $16 a year for maintenance. Others pay $64 a year. And it's all in the packet. If you read the packet, you'll see what every zone, every resident pays for maintenance. It's all in here. And under those assessments, we just cannot afford to maintain the areas. That's why the general fund has to kick in the extra money to maintain the landscape in those areas.
There is one zone, District 10, Zone 1, which is that whole Kanata Valley Hills, David on Home subdivision.
East Lone Tree Way zone.
So that one does have capacity in it because it was built in with the CPI and all of that. It was different before we went to CFDs. I've heard complaints from folks about the level of maintenance out there. Since this does have capacity built into it, I noticed that the rates are not increasing, but they can go up to $612 and they're at $278. Can we look at increasing those rates to something that would allow us to do a better level of maintenance for folks that actually do have money built into their their assessment districts.
We could definitely look into it, but I know that zones well because in the last few years we have put money into that zone to re-landscape, and it is in process. There's still more to do there along the trail there. I know we have to improve the landscape there, but there have been significant improvements in that zone. And there's actually one other zone that has what we call an escalator, and that's the one off of James Donlin. It's that one has an escalator too, and we do go back and we fix things because there's money in that zone to be able to do those improvements based on the assessments that we get.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, throughout the discussion that we had on the budget for the last 7 months, you know, this issue has come again and again and again, and we all are asking questions, well, why haven't we raised some of these rates, at least by the rate of inflation? And so I think, once again, we need to have a focus on this. It's tedious, it's very detailed, but it's significant with regards to the quality of life in our community. So, yes, we did approve the budget on June 24th, but we have said that every month we will be looking at other budgetary items. And I think that this is certainly one that if we need a Prop 218 vote, we have to look at it very early in our fiscal year. And I think that this is a subject that we raised again and again and again. And I think that we need to have some study sessions on this and make a determination. Because I live by Viadora. I know exactly what she's talking about, and it is horrible. So one of the questions I have, if it is the HOA, can the city of Antioch take legal action against the HOA? Because it is as far as I'm concerned, it is a fire hazard. And so I want to know what availability or options that the city council has to take on some of these problems, because they just have been continuing for decades. And I think that we need to be much more aggressive in responding to some of these issues. And frankly, less general fund to these items, the better it will be for us to finance other items in our budget.
Yes. And this also follows up on your request to look at our flood control, not the flood control, but the NPDES fees that are maxed at 25 and need to go through a Prop 218 as well. So we did go through a Prop 218 in 2001, and it failed by 70%. So it was not well received by the community then, but we do need to look at, like you said, looking at what's a possibility going forward. So.
What's the vote on that? Is it 68%? 2/3?
I don't recall. Say it's 2/3. Yeah. So, any other questions or comments on this item? All right, hearing none, could I get a motion to adopt the resolution and setting the public hearing for July 22nd, 2025?
I'll move to approve the resolution approving the consolidated engineers report and declaring intention to levy and collect assessments for the Hillcrest, Citywide Downtown, Almond Ridge, Lone Tree, and East Lone Tree Street Light and Landscape Maintenance Districts, and setting public hearing for July 22nd.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on the agenda, public comments. Do we have any public comments?
Past the landscaping, but I want to say that I know often we get stuck just doing agenda items, but we have to look at the future of landscaping. Like a city like ours that is very fire prone, like they said in Southern California, the future of landscaping has to be different because of all of the fires. So like where I live across the street with all these trees, they all need to go because they're all dead. What does landscaping look like that's not going to catch fire or cause a firestorm? Like we have to think ahead and ask whoever, what does the future of public landscaping look like for a city with large open areas like we have. So we're just not selling homes and weeds. That's all.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Did Crystal speak in the beginning? Thank.
They can't
Crystal?
contradict or override. So
Okay.
that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. All right. Any other public comment?
There are no other public comments.
All right, thank you. Staff communications? No staff communication. Council communications and future agenda items? Yes, Councilmember Torres Walker.
Bring back Zoom, bring back Zoom. For God's sake, bring back Zoom.
I was actually gonna bring that.
For these meetings, there are just a lot of residents in this city who are disabled, who are seniors, who can't often make it to the meetings. And I know why we voted to eliminate Zoom is because people need thicker skin. It's like you can't control what everybody says. People have freedom of speech. The most we could do is make sure that people aren't threatening to hurt themselves or others. But the option not to teleconference in or to have Zoom for the public to participate at large is just a extreme miscarriage of justice, and we need to allow that option for the community. So again, bring back Zoom. I want to we're seeing as the mayor mentioned, we're seeing a reduction in crime in the community. I would like to lay out that violent crime has been trending down for years at a national level and in the state of California. Some communities experience high rates of violence all the time, so it doesn't feel like it's trending down in our neighborhoods that need a lot more attention. And through the efforts of programs that have been implemented in this city, we're seeing the fruit of that labor now. This didn't happen in 7 months. It took years to get here for some of these reductions to happen, and more innovative ways and approaches to addressing harm and violence in our communities. I am a little concerned about the point in time count around the decrease in homelessness in the city of Antioch. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a good thing if there were not more unhoused folks on our streets, but for advocates and those of us who know what the point in time count means, often there is a undercount because you can't possibly touch every unhoused person in a city. And so I hope that the reduction is related to people actually getting housing and resources, but because I know that the point in time count often undercounts individuals, we need to consider that, like the lady who came tonight and said that she is still seeking resources for housing, that there are actually people who have not been counted that are still existing on our streets and in our communities without housing and resources. And if the number is true and there is a significant reduction, I want to thank the former mayor, Lamar Hernandez-Thorpe, other council members, and city staff who fought really hard for the executive end using ARPA funding to highlight that program that also led to us receiving and CAMIN resolution funds to continue that work. When you take risks, this is the product of taking those risks, if this is in fact a true number from our point in time count. Again, it took a while to get here, and some of the actions of the previous council and the previous mayor actually got us to this point. I do want to say thank the community that did go out into the lobby and talk to our 3 unhoused folks that showed up tonight. If it's possible for us all to continue to find resources for our folks living on the streets, that would be great. Also, myself and City Councilwoman Wilson met at Bidwell Continuation High School to talk about some of the issues that they're facing with the police chief, a board member, is it Dr. Jag Lathan? As well as the new superintendent, to talk about what is our Safe Streets model, what is our school to community model, how do we address the issues around school site safety, working together as a city, as well as how do we address sex trafficking and human trafficking when it comes to our young people and our school sites here in the city. And so just want to continue to thank Councilwoman Wilson for all her work in that area over the years, and also being in that meeting and bringing your expertise, and hopefully looking forward to continuing this conversation with the district, city manager, as well as I know myself and Mayor Pro Tem Rocha sit on the city and school standing committee. So hopefully some of that will be coming before the standing committee for us to create a long-range plan to make our city more safe and our school sites more safe. And that's all I have. Thank you, Annie. I'll see you next time.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I had the occasion last week to reread the settlement agreement between the Federal Department of Justice and the City of Antioch. And in the agreement, there are a lot of items that are called out with a 6-month deadline. And we entered the agreement on January 3rd, and we are now past the 6 months. So I'd like to suggest that in August, we basically have staff come forward to make a report, because I do not want to be out of compliance with this particular agreement. I think we need to know what progress has been made to ourselves and the community, as well as the Police Oversight Committee.
To add to that request, is there any way to get a presentation on the potential modifications to that agreement or other potential oversights that are happening? I know the city manager, you were in negotiations.
Yes, so we're can't comment on current litigation, but if you recall, the chief of police, myself, and the monitor will be giving reports at the same time for the police department, the budget, and for the settlement agreement. So you'll be getting those every month anyway.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yes, Councilman Wilson.
Thank you. So a couple weeks ago, myself, city manager, and Chief Vigil went to visit Planned Parenthood at their new location. And I really would like an item to come back around buffer zones, not only around buffer zones for Planned Parenthood, but for other areas. An issue has arisen in relationship to that location and what's happening, and it's time for us to visit buffer zones. Thank you.
All right, yes, Mayor Pro Tem Rocha.
To echo Tamisha Torres Walker's comments regarding Zoom and telecommunication, I know I brought that up about maybe a month ago, and the look I got from the people sitting up here, I was like, oh, what did I bring up? The reason why I'm glad that it was brought up once again is, like, for example, we are having a July 22nd public hearing that is required of us. However, we're going to have 3 city council members, and so we meet the quorum criteria. But what if, you know, with life happens, things happen in our lives. You know, I recently lost my father-in-law, and we have personal lives that we lead. And if something should come up where we're not physically able to be here, telecommunication would allow us to continue to conduct business and not fail to meet deadlines. So that's why I'm glad it was brought up, and I think we should really, as far as Zoom and public comments, again, if it helps our veterans, our elderly, and whoever else could benefit, I think that's a great idea. And then finally, I think back in March, when we first addressed the issue around immigration and ICE and potential issues that may happen in our community and our neighboring communities, we held a Know Your Rights meeting at St. Ignatius Church, which was well received in regard to public being able to take information and share it with their neighbors, and having Chief Vigil there, having the superintendent of schools there, and other city leaders, city manager, and others that were there. I do think that the partnership that Timmy Torres-Walker and I, be on the standing committee with the board members that are seated on that standing committee, I do think that there's some work that we can do together to help protect our youth and families. I do encourage the chief of police, city manager, to maybe revisit and communicate what our stance is. I heard that tonight, a concern. I've heard that from others, because what I didn't think would ever happen is happening. And what broke my heart was seeing a landscaper, I think you probably have seen the video, where he was taken into custody physically, and he's working his job. His 3 children who were interviewed were U.S. Marines who have served our country, that are Latinos, that have done, like many black and brown folks have done, is to serve their country. And to see someone treated that way, and then the biggest concern that I heard one of the sons share was that his dad wanted to make sure that the landscaping was completed, because he wanted to make sure that job was done. And it just breaks my heart that that's happening now. And as it was stated earlier, I think it's really important for our community to know where we stand. What will the police department do? What won't they do? And before you know it, the school's going to be reopening in August. And what are we going to be faced with in August when school opens? Was our position in protecting our youth and our families when they go to school in the morning. So anyway, I just think we should, once again, just have an update on where we at. Are things remaining the same? Have things changed at all? Because it's, it seems like we're faced with changes every day. And, I was away for the 4th of July holiday. I was up in the hills camping with my family, which we haven't done in quite a while, but there's no communications. There's no cell service up there. There's no phone, there's no way to know internet until I came home, and then I see all these things that happen just within 5 days. So the world is quickly evolving, and things are happening at a hurried race. And when I see what's happening across the country in some of the cities here in the Bay Area, where I think it was in Los Angeles, where there was ICE with military vehicles going through a park where children play and families are, just literally going in and just like a sweep. And to me, that's very unfortunate and heartbreaking. So I just would like to request that we provide an update to our community on where we're at, what we will do, what we won't do, so that people at least have transparency in our community of what we'll do. Because I'm sure there are employees who are fearful of going to work, not knowing if someone's going to come in and try to take them out of their place of employment, or landscapers who work in various properties throughout the community. And so I just think it's important for us to update our community and let them know what we will do, what we won't do, so they at least have a better understanding of what to expect from us.
All right, thank you. And again, I'd like to thank Ms. Morit for joining us tonight and finishing off a long day of clerking. So thank you for helping us out tonight. Oh, and also, of course, Dave, our attorney, is standing in, and it's been here, been a minute ago since you've been here, but thank you for coming also. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. It's the fastest motion in second yet.
Because it's 9.
All right,
I don't know if
motion passes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.